What's up, everybody? This is Herschel Froome from High School Top 200, and this is the Top 200 podcast, the Monday morning meeting. If you jump on my website, please click on some ads. Also, like, subscribe, and comment on this YouTube stuff. And also, if you're listening to this on the podcast, some audio. If you're driving home from work and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, this is where, if you're new to this is where I just talk about the games in this past weekend, the rankings, school rankings, pay rankings, guys that I think have impressed a lot, and yeah, just the overall landscape of New Zealand rugby and first 15 level. And there's been a lot of talk, I guess, because just jumping into it because we had the games come on TV and we had King's High School in that play. That I think everybody's thoughts on the game was that King's High School took their foot off the pedal a bit, and you could kind of see that as well because first off, when they had the ball in their hand, I mean, they defended really well because Southland came out on fire, and they were defending really well. But even when they got the ball back, they pretty much scored straight away, and they exposed the edges a bit on Southland boys. And that was because of just the multiple looks of runners that they had in that forward pack, especially when they had all the props running through and lining up out wide, and the also the loose forwards were doing a bunch of running as well. And so, everybody, and this is people that talk to me, and that message me a lot throughout the week, and everybody. And this is kind of why I do this, because, everybody, whenever they talk about Kings, everyone just automatically thinks King's College from Auckland and not King's High School from Dunedin. And so for the reason I do this is that so that people get exposed to a lot more of the talented schools around the country, and that there's more to it than just the 1A and Super 8. And so because I talked about this so much and talked about the game that was coming up, a lot of people expected a lot. And in all honesty, everybody saw exactly what I was talking about and how good this team was, but they just did it in spurts instead of keeping that consistent pressure on Southland boys. And Southland boys, to their credit, won that game in terms of they got a draw. Where to me, clearly Kings was a better team, but Kings took a nap for a while in that game for some reason. And so, to me, that was kind of a victory to Southland boys, and I think Kings could have hit maybe 35, 38 points if they had just kept going. And that's something that I don't understand. And I think. And here's something that I guess a lot of people don't think about when they, because you're just not around rugby as much as I am, but there becomes like a culture of winning and a culture of feeling that pressure, being at a school that is expected a lot of, and that is not just an easy thing to adapt to. That does take a lot of time. That does take a change in the culture of a school. Like if you look at Hamilton boys, for example, they want to be the best in everything, in every sport, in every academic thing. That every kid who is at the top of the top of their game in that sport, at that school, and even with the academic side, they all want to be the best in New Zealand at all of them. So whoever their best statistics guy or the biology guy or the whoever's the best at cricket and soccer and hockey and rugby, like they all want to be the best at it, and that's like a school culture thing. And everybody at that school is in that understanding of we look to be the best and we want to be the best and we try our hardest to be the best. And there's a lot of those kind of schools around the country as well, but when you're not used to that culture of winning, especially in those kind of especially in sports, if you're not used to that kind of winning, it does take a lot uh, to get adjusted to, because it's not about just winning on the day. It's about winning on the day and doing it with dominance. And you got to do it week in and week out. You've got to train with that same attitude and culture that you are the best, and that whoever is playing you guys next week are not going to have a chance to win. Now, I have been talking about King's High School and this dominance that they're going to have in the Deep South for 3 years now, and it is starting, and it kind of changed last year. And I only looked at it that way because I saw how the under 15s and under 14s and under 15s were doing, and then kind of looking at the first 15 and how young they were, and then just started to sort of look at the rosters and go, okay, well, these kids are going to move in soon. Those kids are going to stay here in first 15. And then I saw how they were just, and this is like a massive credit to their rugby program that they have there. They're building all these kids in to be winners and being good rugby players in their school. But once that's established and you know that, you've got to play like that every single week. Otago boys kind of had that before, where they just dominated all the time, knowing that they were going to be that good. And now that King's High School sort of has that badge on them now, the boys at that school, and I'm not just talking about the first 15 boys, I'm talking about the first 15, the second 15, the under 16s, the under 15s, under 14s, have all got to realize on your trail to the top of first 15 is that is going to be what is expected of you as well. And I think that they can do it, because just looking at the rugby program and how they've built it there, they've got all these players coming through, all these young boys who are really, really good players, and they are really starting to win in those under 14s, under 15s levels. And so I can see that coming through with them coming through and under 14s, 15s, and then taking it through into the first 15 as well. And King's High School have just got to get used to it. And that was something that I didn't think that they really thought about, but that's something that they need to start thinking about. And this is the boys. I'm not talking about the coaches or this, the sports director or anything like that. I'm talking about the boys just alone. And they've got to be able to do that. And, Rohan is such a good captain, and he showed it in his game as well. Like, he wasn't the big star that people were kind of looking at, but he does all the hard stuff as a core role of a prop. And so he's also got to step up as well and tell his boys throughout the game to keep that pressure on and to keep coming fast. It's not about coasting, which they kind of look like they did for a little bit. It's about pick up that energy level all the time, and then making sure that every kid, as well as himself, is accountable for what they're doing in every single movement, and cut it down that way, where they're looking at every single play and going, we need you to hit hard on this. We need to clean out when he hits hard. We need to do this, all that kind of stuff. And they're going to learn that as they go on as well. So I think that's just something that they've got to start looking at and getting used to if they want to be the top of, the teams down south. But that was one of the games. The Wanganui Collegiate game against Lindisfarne was a really good game as well. And I really like that forward pack that they have at Wanganui Collegiate, and they're kind of young as well, which is cool. There's a lot of guys coming through, and I don't know. I kind of think that if this was like a normal year, because we're always talking about this year in a COVID year, if this was just a normal year, I think Whanganui Collegiate would benefit a lot more with just a normal season and how they're going. And they showed it a lot in that Lindisfarne game. And I think they kind of won. They should have won by a little bit more. Um, but yeah, like Leo Allen and Harry and Sean, all those guys are playing really, really well. Even the young guys are coming through. The what's his name? The Fijian kid. I think his name is Joseph. He's number 8, year 11. Here people don't know what he is. Like year 11, year 12. Like, I keep getting mixed information on him, but even he is looking really good, and it's not an easy thing sometimes for um, uh, players from other countries to come into our rugby system and then adapt to it, because it's a lot different. The way that we play rugby is a lot different. Um, a lot of the islanders that come over are used to a more loose way of playing. Especially Fijians, they have this loose way of playing that once they come to New Zealand, it's like, well, you got to take care of your core position first before we can start doing all that other kind of stuff, so that we have some kind of foundation. And I kind of heard that a lot when I was watching the under 18s Fijian team last year, and I went to their training, and I watched the way that they trained, and the boys were just training, and it was funny because the coaches were on the sideline trying to get them to play a fundamental side and establishing a foundation first before they start doing all that kind of stuff. But the boys are just not used to that kind of stuff. They're just used to, playing real fast and quick and all these little slight passes. But then, um, if everyone's playing that way, it's fine, but not when the other team's playing a kind of different way and you haven't really established anything. And that's kind of the attitude that a lot of kids come over from Samoa, Tonga, and Fiji, where they got a different style, and then when you come to New Zealand, you kind of have to switch it up a little bit, but then not take that away from their game as well. As that when they want to switch into that mode that they used to back home, it's recognizable straight away, and then they can adapt from one to the other. Because, I mean, a lot of players don't get recruited because you want them to play your way. You kind of want them to play their way, but picking those moments when they can do that, the right moments when they can do that, because then they become real dangerous. And we've seen that with some of these guys that have come over from Samoa, Tonga, and Fiji as well, how dangerous they can be when they mix our style of play with their style of play, and then you just get some of these superstars coming out, and some of them already making it into Super Rugby now, and so there's a lot of benefits to that too. And this kid from Wanganui Collegiate is kind of like that as well, and he's kind of coming up that way. On Wednesday, they had the Silverstream and Wellington game, which I heard was a really good game. And Wellington's bringing it together. Like they're struggling, and they have been for a little bit. And there are reasons why, and I've heard like a few reasons why, and I can understand it. But scoring 26 points against Silverstream, I think, is a pretty good score. Even in a losing situation, 26 points is a lot of points. Okay, so that's not something to sort of frown upon. You still got to give them props for how much points they scored. You just got to keep the other end down as well. And that's the same with Silverstream. Looking at Silverstream, is just like that's fine. You scored 45 points, but 26 points is a lot of points. That is a lot of opportunities that the other team got to score points on you. So I kind of look at things in that way. Kirikiri High School, them winning over Dargaville 84-7 is too big. That's too big, and especially on a competition of 4 teams, because that's Kaitaia. Kaitaia played Whangarei boys, second 15 as well, and so that was another score in that little competition, and they play on Wednesdays, and so I'll kind of get the information on those games on Wednesdays. Just in that, I think they're just trying something out up there. They have to try something out. The Beard Trophy game was as Aotea College versus Bishop Viard, and Aotea won that 55-5 in that game. And Aotea is really good. Like I kind of looking at them now and just keeping an eye on them and seeing what they're doing. Like they're new to this. I think Aotea can actually make the first or the Premier One. I think that's what it's called in Wellington. They can make that top side consistently every year, because they have enough talent at that school and in that area to draw those kind of players. And so, to me, maybe just getting a little bit more commitment from the boys as well to jump into, I guess, believing that they can do it every year. Because sometimes that's what it is that a lot of, especially at these smaller schools in the island areas, sometimes the boys are not fully committed because they feel like there's not a lot of effort in it as well, and it's got nothing to do with coaches or volunteers or anything like that. They just don't feel like they get, I guess, recognition for what they're doing. But I mean, OT is one of those schools that I think that they could pretty much do it every single year, and I mean they're starting to do that now, just with how well they've been playing this year and even last year. Last year was a really big year for them too, and so I can understand um, how well they're doing. They just got to keep it up and keep all the boys coming through that same system and rugby program um, committed, because I think that they're a school that can do it. And all those other schools have got to watch out as well. Is that if a school like Aotea can get that full commitment from all the boys, from under 15, under 14s, all the way through the first 15, of all the boys believing that they have a rugby school that can compete with the bigger schools, and they all buy into it, they could be like a De La Salle of Wellington, and they could be in that range of just having so much talent down there that they're going to be highly competitive every single year in that competition. And they could also start making a push at fielding high school when it comes to the co-ed route as well, because in that area, there's not a lot, especially in that area, and I'm talking about the Hurricanes area, not a lot of teams would push fielding high school. That's why they're consistent almost every single year going to the competition representing, the Hurricanes. And so I think it's important that if a school like OTM makes that commitment and makes that I guess that full commitment of a school coaches and players effort, they can be up there with fielding high school every single year and also be a real worry for some of these big schools that are in Wellington. And like, let's be honest, like some those boys that probably should be at that school have been recruited to those other bigger programs, and so that's kind of how it is too. Um, the Hamilton boys one, I was wrong. Obviously, I was wrong. I picked Palmy to win. They almost did it, but it just wasn't enough, and it wasn't what they didn't do. It's what Hamilton boys did, and Hamilton boys started to break towards the end of their game. They started letting little stuff go through. I think the size got to them a little bit, because in that last 10, 12 minutes, Palmy boys were just coming for them the whole time. And I think if the game went on just a little bit longer, they would have scored. Um, and there was just a drop ball that finished that game. And so that was the sad thing about it. It was just such a simple mistake. But it's just one of those things that you kind of have to do and make sure you get through, just so that you can keep that momentum on. And Palmy boys was coming for it. And I wrote about it yesterday in terms of Lufwell not getting enough ball, and that's kind of the way that I saw it, is that why wouldn't you give your best attacking player more opportunities to make plays? Like I kind of I kind of see it that way when it comes to sports as well. As that, and it's not like a new idea or anything like that. Is that in American football, if you have good wide receivers, you're calling his number and making up plays and routes for him to run, and everything is kind of set up so that he can make that break. If you've got a running back, you do the same thing. If he's a 3-down back, you're giving him options of a running and a catching option at the same time, whether that's out in the flats or it's coming over the middle or going through the, and you're giving him the lanes in terms of running lanes. If he's your most dominant player, and then you want to give him those balls because you know that he can make it with everybody else's help. Same thing with basketball, is that you're pulling screens and you're showing and you're cutting, and you're setting up plays just for one guy to make that shot, so that you know that he can consistently, because he's got the better shot, you know that consistently he can get you a lot more points. The same thing with rugby is that I saw it the same way with Lafo. Is it's like, okay, that's great that Leo's running all these balls because he is making a difference. But then on that second phase, Lafo's not getting the call to get that next ball. Like, and I was thinking, well, why not? Or why not? Why is he not getting the first one? Because to me, him and Tavita, like I wrote, is like, if Lafo makes a break and Tavita's always going to be right there. Tavita's fast enough and he's got good timing enough to be right there for Lafo to get their ball, but Lafo wasn't getting plays called for him, which I don't understand. He was getting messy ball, and then he was stuck with three defenders trying to figure out, well, what do I do? And the only thing you can really do in those, and the smart thing in those situations is like, well, just put on some, a couple of steps, and then to sort of stall the time where your defense can get there, and then you're just crashing in. No real setup, no real gap, no real decoys, nothing like that. And that's the kind of ball that he was getting. On the other hand, I would have done it differently and this is where the coaches got a different game plan for what they want, and that's fine. And this is just what I'm talking from my perspective. I don't know what their game plan is, and then I'm like dissecting it. I'm just telling you what I would have done. And I would have done that same thing where I would have brought Lafo in a lot more. Like, why not use him? I'm not using him for 3 hit-ups. I'm using him for 7 hit-ups and a half. That's the way that I'll play it with every single ball. I'll be like, okay, well, either Lafo's going to set this one up or he's going to be the recipient of that next phase. You've got the forwards to set it up because they're so huge and massive and they can clean out ball and they can push the defense back, bend that line in the defense, and then you have someone like Lafo who can smash through it. That's what I kind of was looking for, and that's what I was hoping that would happen. And I thought it was going to be that way because Lafo made a massive break right in the beginning of that game. First touch of the ball that he got, and he broke down the left side of the field, and he ran like 35, 40 meters. And Hamilton, and his angle that he was running at, and he was cutting back inside back into the middle of the field from the outside, back into the middle of the field, and was still looking for guys right there. And I thought that was going to happen continuously throughout the whole game. And so I thought, cool, I get to see this. Because I've seen Lafo do that in under 15s. I've seen him do it in under 15s. I've seen him do it in 7s, stuff like that. And I thought he's going to kind of do the same thing. And he did show it with just that one run. But then after that, he really didn't get that many opportunities to do it. And they had the opportunities. I'm not saying that Hamilton boys weren't good at their defense. He did have opportunities. But they just weren't going to him. I don't know. Just the way that I saw that game anyway. But Elijah was the best guy on the field. Elijah was the best guy on the field on that day. And even in a losing effort, he was by far one of the better ones. And Taha's try was massive. That was such a good try. Mason, I thought, played really well. Like I said in my writings, the front row for Palmy Boys was awesome. Raymond was awesome. And another guy I'm thinking about, Raymond, is like another guy that may be up there for New Zealand secondary school hooker. Just the way that he played as well. And he looks in shape as well. He looks different. Physically, he looks different from what he did last year. He looks a lot better this year in terms of being at a hooker position, because last year it looked like 3 props in the front row, but now it looks like there's a hooker in the front row. And just the way that he's transformed himself, whatever he did over the summers was great. That's what I think. Whatever he did over the summers was great. And he looked fit and he looked fast, carried strong, did all the hard stuff and the ugly stuff that people don't like to do. And yeah, I really enjoyed watching him yesterday. And I can understand why they are that good as well and the results of which they're bringing up. I don't see anybody else beating them. I think the only one that I can see kind of matching them, and this is after watching that game, was the Napier one. And Napier will probably be the other one that could could match them. I want to go and see New Plymouth boys and see what they can do. I've seen them on film twice already, um, but yeah, I don't know, and I have a feeling that Palmerston North can beat King's College as well. And I've got to find out if that game is actually happening because they usually have it every year. That usually is late, and so I wonder if they still scheduled it to be in there. But that's a game that I really want to watch. Even if it's in Palmy, I'll probably travel to that game and watch that game because that's going to be an interesting one. And if you're in the area when that is, and I'll keep everyone up to date with it, obviously. But you would want to come and watch that game when that happens, if it happens, anyway. And so, if we get back to it, so Auckland Grammar won over Kelson Boys, which was really good, 23-17. And I'm telling you, this 1A competition is so hard this year. Everyone's gonna lose twice. I think everyone's almost already lost twice. Oh no, because everyone's sitting on a draw as well. So Kelson Boys has lost twice. Sacred Heart have got a loss and a draw. St. Kennigan's have got a loss and a draw. King's College have a draw. Auckland Grammar have a loss. Mags have a few losses. St. Peter's have one loss as well. And so everyone's going to end up with at least 2 losses. Or in King's case, they're going to have a draw and a loss. And it's just so hard for these teams up there. And I think the best thing about the 1A is that you don't have to deal with travel. You don't have to deal with the road trip. And they're lucky in that way. I think St. Peter's is the only one right now that made their trip out to Gisborne and made it back. And they were still good when they came back, doing it in the holidays, which is a good sign as well. To come back off such a long drive and like talk to any of those boys that go out to Gisborne. Actually, talk to anybody that drives to Gisborne and how hard that is. And so, but that 1A is going to be hard. Like St. Kennigan's and Sacred Heart just had a draw 17-all, which is a hard one as well. And both of those teams will be ticking that game off, that they don't have to, come to that game again, because that's one of the hardest ones for both of them. King's College won over Tangaroa 74-0, which is kind of expected, I guess. Yeah, I guess expected. The Hastings boys and Napier won. Man, Napier's kind of lucky, like that. Hastings played. That I think that was the only disappointing thing about that, is that when Hastings went down to 13 men, Napier didn't do anything with that. And I would have expected them to at least score a try. I don't think they did. I mean, I was watching it yesterday, and I don't think they did. But that's something that they can fix up. But Hastings did really good. Hastings did really good to stay in that game. I think that they defended as long as they could have. They defended for as long as they could have before it all broke loose, and it didn't really break loose. And I think that was maybe the positive thing about that, is that Napier didn't get out to this point where they were just scoring try after try after try, which, if you're watching the game, it kind of looked like they were getting to that point where Napier should be doing that. Hastings just stood up, especially when, like, it takes a toll on you. It takes a toll on any team when you have to play with 14 men at any time. But when you go down to 13 men, and just that energy that you have to sort of step it up to cover a 15-man team with 13, you would expect a try to come out pretty much straight away. So Hastings did great to do that, and Napier's got to start sorting. Napier's got to sort that out, because they have a very good forward pack that is big and hard working. I hope Max is okay, and that his injury is not too bad, because I really wanted to see more of Max. I mean, Gus Brown did such a mean job as a year 11, and just how active he was as well. And yeah, I think that team is only gonna get better. Um, Jaden Stock as well as that, just playing so well. But I just wanted to see more, especially with the massive advantage that they had. St. Peter's College, I picked them to win over Mags, and they did it pretty easily actually. With that 29-6. Kings High School came back 48-0 over Dunstan after the draw that they had. Um, St. Andrews is the only one right now that hasn't lost a game. Um, they haven't lost a game in the UC Championship, but I feel like it's getting harder and harder for them every single game. And it might be like how it is last year, but with last year they played all the hard games right at the end of the season. They've actually already had some of those hard games and hard teams, and so I'm getting more confident in what they're doing, and how they're beating some of these teams that I feel like they might have passed that little hump in their season where they're at a good situation right now, and I'm not too sure if a loss is going to be coming. Um, but I mean, their competition is still pretty close. But St. Andrews was one of those teams that I think are looking good, and I think the boys are a lot more confident enough to. I think learning from last year, there's a lot of boys that are back that still remember that, and they remember how hard that was to go unbeaten, and then just for it to kind of fall apart at the end of the season, and they pretty much just missed out on everything. Um, and then kind of have to go to the top four co-ed in that kind of mindset, I guess. But yeah, that would have been pretty hard. But St. Andrews is looking really good this year. And remember, there's a bunch of year 12s on that team that are all going to be back next year, and they're all just going to be just massive athletes, and they're going to carry it on. And so that's a massive positive for them. Um, New Plymouth Boys is they got their win over Tauranga Boys, which is um, something I picked as well. But I knew that it was going to be close. That 15-11, that's such a close score, and with two teams that I think um, are capable enough to hang with the bigger teams like Palmy and Hamilton Boys. I think that they have the squad to do it. It's just whether they do it or not, because it's just that thing with confidence whenever you play Hamilton Boys, for some reason everyone just falls apart, and it's just that kind of way. And it's not like I don't understand it, because when I was at school, I understood that that's kind of just how it was when you came against Hamilton Boys. Even when we played them as well, we just had this different. Um, Actually, I think ours was a bit different because we just really wanted just to fight them. We physically wanted to hurt them, like win the game and hurt them was kind of like our thing. And yeah, so I kind of know how it is anyway. That fielding game against St. Paul's. St. Paul's have got to fix some stuff up. They've got too good of a side to be losing games like that. 45-26 against Fielding High School. Rotorua got away with a 1 point win over Gisborne Boys. And the thing of what so there's this little argument that's been going on, and I never knew about this rule, right? Like I knew that there was a rule that you could have one 19-year-old on your team, or two 19-year-olds on your team. But I didn't know the other rule was that if there's a kid on the other team that could play under 15s but is playing first 15, then those boys can't play who are 19. Like that's not a rule that I have heard of before, but was one that was brought up by people that were at that game, so that two players that should have been playing for Gisborne boys were left out of it, and they didn't end up playing that game. Now, I didn't find anything like that in the rules when I looked at the Super Rugby at the Super 8 rules. I didn't see anything like that, and so I mean, I'm just going to ask some more, and maybe it's like a world rule or something like that, but I don't know. I didn't see it anyway. Um, Christ College falling to Marlborough boys. Uh, that was a real big surprise. I mean, Marlborough boys weren't even playing that well to begin with, unless they've just found their groove and found their rhythm and sound that they like right now about their team, and they just pulled it off on Christ College. But if I was Marlborough boys, I'll take that confidence to the next game and just keep rolling with that same confidence that they have beating a team like Christ College. Because, well, I didn't expect that anyway. Nelson, I thought we were going to win against Christchurch boys, especially with Christchurch boys travelling up there. I know I just had this confidence in Nelson because I've been playing so well. I just thought that they were gonna win this game, but it's also really that was like a much needed win for Christchurch boys as well. They needed to win that one. I think they have a few easy games coming up. I think they have 2 easy games coming up in a row, which should give them a lot of rest and give them time to really, um, find their team, find their play, find their confidence again. Like this game, they take a lot of confidence from this game for sure, and so like that's kind of like one of those things as well. Is like I think you've got to really celebrate the wins that you have, and the wins that you have and that you've had to pick up the confidence that you need to go on for the rest of the season, because it is a long season and these guys are not getting rest. Like they're playing all the way through to get through all their games down in the UC Championship, and then they're even playing semi-finals and finals, which is going to be different as well, and something that they're going to need to to um, to take that encouragement and that momentum and confidence all the way through into those finals if they really want to make it through. St. Bede's, they got their win over Lincoln Combined. De La Salle won over Dilworth in a pretty hard game, 22-10. Aldede won over Liston College. One of the biggest upsets of Saturday was in the 1B. I didn't think this was going to happen anyway. So Southern Cross, they beat Onehunga. Howick, they drew with Pakudanga, something I didn't think was going to happen. St. Paul's won against Avondale College. Botany Downs beat Otahu College 27-5. 27-5. Like, that is such a massive score by two teams, between two teams on the opposite side of that table. And I mean, like, Botany Downs has had two really good games against One Tree Hill and Waitakere College, scoring big. Even though they lost their first game to Maclean's College, they've had two good games, but Otahu wasn't one of those games that I thought that they were going to win and win like that. Now, if someone's got some game footage that is out there, I'd be really keen to see that game. I'd be really keen to see what happened in that game. And I mean, big shout out to Botany Downs, and I hope this is kind of what we get to see for the rest of the years. That I mean, like, I had a lot of high hopes for Botany Downs because I saw them last year and I saw how many players were coming back, and I thought they were going to be better. And then when they lost that Maclean's game, or they lost to Liston, which I thought they should have been in the 1A, just based off their roster. And then they lost to Liston and they lost to Maclean's, and I thought, okay then. And then they played One Tree Hill, and I thought, well, that's okay because One Tree Hill have a different they have a different look this year. And even the Waitakere one, I thought, yeah, okay, that's understandable. But I don't know, this Otahu one has really changed my mind, and I'm pretty keen to um, see how they keep tracking for this rest of the season. Because the Botany Downs can get back to what they were last year. That's pretty exciting to see that they've made this big change around. But that was one of them. Waikato, terrible. Uh, Mount Roskill Grammar and One Tree Hill. Mount Roskill winning that one. Maclean's winning again over Waitakere. Maclean's is such a good school right now. Like, I think I want to go and see one of their games. Rosehill and Mangere got their second win. Good, congratulations to you fellas. Marsden beating Papatoe. Tamaki College winning over Mags 1C. Pukekohe beating Edgewater 31-14. The St. John's one, I thought St. John's was going to beat Wesley. Wesley came out 24-14 over them. And St. Peter's Cambridge had a massive win over Francis Douglas of 34-5. And then Lindisfarne backed up a second game in that week, winning 23-22 over their neighbours, St. John's Hastings, which is good. And so Lindisfarne's looking pretty okay right now. Westlake got another massive win over Mahurangi. Massey won over Takapuna, which was a big game. Manurewa beating Rangitoto, which was another one that I thought was going to happen. Manurewa's got to get better. I still think I don't know if I'm expecting too much, but I feel like they just haven't hit their potential, what they're supposed to be, and this is just me because I know what kind of talent they have on their team. I feel like they should be a bit better than those kind of wins. And they should be furthermore along because they got so much talent in that team. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a hard one to see. Rosmini winning over Orewa. Whangarei boys putting up a massive score over Kaipara. In the Waikato, Te Aomori beat Fraser High School. Cambridge losing to Matamata was another one I wasn't expecting. I thought Cambridge would pull that one out. And so Matamata's got that win and look a lot better. I know a few guys from that team. And I think maybe it is just time. It's just the time of the year that we have. Morrinsville won against Hillcrest 53-0. And there's still some schools that haven't posted scores or haven't sent them in or whatever. I don't know what it is, but send your scores in, please. Like I know people think that I don't care about that. I only care about the big schools. It's not true. Like that's why I've got a ranking to 100 because I care about what everybody's scores are and what everyone's doing. I may not be able to get to your games or anything like that, but that's why I appreciate people that send me games that I can watch so that while I'm doing my work, I can watch watch the games on the TV because that's over there. I've got a TV in my office that I put the games on while I'm watching. I'm also doing my work and watching the games at the same time, and so everybody's games I'm interested in. I don't care what first 15 it is. Everybody's games I'm interested in. So if you have footage that you want to send, please send it to me so I can watch, or just add me on Huddle because I'm on High School Top 200 on Huddle as well. So just add me to that. Otrohanga and Tikawiti played, and if you know the King Country or know this area, they're only like 7 minutes down the road, and so that was a big game won by Otrohanga 24-7. Taupo Nuiotea beat Taupo Tongariro, and I'm not too sure how that Taupo and Tongariro one works out, but that's a combined team. But they won. Taupo Nuiotea won 38-7, and that's just a new competition that I hope stays on. The other game, the Aquinas College one about Aquinas College versus John Paul College, ended in a draw, and I thought John Paul was going to win this. They have a pretty strong team this year, and they're looking really strong. I don't know. I just thought they would have had that over the Aquinas College one, but they ended up in a draw. Katikati beat Western Heights High School. I thought Western Heights was going to win that one. Um, the Whakatane High School one against Te Puke was a big one, 66-0 on that game. Um, what was the other ones that I had? Yeah, there's still a lot of teams that haven't sent in scores. Howard High School 41-11 over New Plymouth 315. Rongotai College beating Waited Upper. That's a big game. I thought that was a big game, and that's I think that's one. That's one of those games because if you play Waited Up is one of those teams that you just can't take them for granted. Like they can really stand out and just really perform against anybody on any given day, and it kind of just depends which team you get playing that day when you play Whited Upper. But because when you go to Masterton as well, that's like a different. I think that's just a different place to play, and I think teams must struggle when they go over there, and that's just what I've seen over doing high school top 200 is that I've seen that a lot of teams seem to struggle whenever they go to Masterton and play White Upper College. But I was told that Jordan Tuilaepa, he played a massive game, scoring a try in their win in that win as well. James Pessia was the other one that I heard had a really good game as well. And next week is the big game for Rongotai and Scots College as well. So that's kind of a game that I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out. I mean, Scots College, they won 58-3 against Altair in their Willamette Cup that they had against Altair College. And so that was a big game for them. So Scots and Rongotai will play next week. And I'm still thinking about who I think is going to win. I think that's going to be a bit different at this point in the season anyway. St. Bernard's gone on. They won against Minor College 33-18, and St. Battstown won against Taupo College 38-7. Wainuiomata lost to Silverstream 2nd 15. Hibs College. Hibs beat Wellington College 2nd 15 36-17. Kapiti College won against St. Pat's Town 2nd 15 39-33. Isberg Cup, which is between Upper Hutt High School and Purirua. I thought Purirua was going to win this one. Upper Hutt, really good. They've been doing good so far in this season as well. They won 29-17. Timaru beat Akaroa, Aoraki combined 50-20, and that wasn't like a reflection of that game because it was a lot harder. It only broke out in that second half where Timaru sort of, I guess, opened the gates a little bit and then started running and scoring a bunch of tries as well. But that was a lot closer than what that score actually shows. Waimea and Rangiora High School, which is another game I wish someone would send me because I really want to watch that game. And Rangiora is actually one of the form teams right now that are in the top 4 right now down in the UC Championship, and they're pushing for that number 1 spot. And the way that they're playing, which is just a lot of hard-nosed forward play, I have a feeling that they're going to get there and maybe end up number 1 or number 2 by the end of the year. That's kind of how they're playing right now. St. Thomas had a win against Mid Canterbury. It was 70-3. St. Kevin's is kind of the team, and this is down in Otago now. St. Kevin's is kind of a frustrating situation because, and I think this is where just intimidation came into it, where they looked at Otago boys and then they played the name Otago boys, not the team Otago boys. They played the name and the legacy and tradition of it. 70-10, with the way that St. Kevin's has been playing, that should not be the scoreline. Not 70 points is not the scoreline from the team that St. Kevin's have, by the way St. Kevin's has been playing. It shouldn't be that much. It shouldn't be that much of a gap because they've been playing so good and scoring so much points and being so active on the run and scoring tries and having this real good flow to their team that they come up against a team like Otago Boys, who is not the Otago Boys that we're kind of used to, but now they put up that same kind of scoreline that we're used to seeing between those two schools, and it shouldn't be that way at all. Wakatupu High School, they beat South Otago High School. Mount Aspiring won against Otago combined 43-8. The Wakatupu game was 31-17 over South Otago. John McGlashan won 55-0 over Waitaki Boys. And the last game that I wanted to talk about, and this is kind of what bugs me a lot, right, is Southland Boys. And I can understand because you just had a TV game, you just had another game. It was a TV game, whatever. But Southland Boys, first 15, and I think they would have played a lot of their bench, but even then I still don't think that's kind of an excuse. But Southland Boys, first 15, only won by 20-17 to Otago Boys' second 15. Now, I understand the turnaround, and you can have that argument if you want. But Kings High School had to turn around and play Dunstan High School and beat them comfortably 48-0. And Dunstan and Otago Boys, I think they've already played, actually. Have they played already? No, I don't think they've played the second 15 yet. But for Southland Boys, as a team that's such a traditionally strong team, to play a second 15 and only win by 3 points after playing such a good game from high school, from Kings High School, and only win by 3 points, they could have lost that game, easily lost that game. And that's got to be the first ever if they ever lost to Otago Boys' second 15. Now, they didn't lose, but they almost did. They almost did, and they were in that position where they were fighting for that win. They shouldn't be, to me, and this is just to me, they shouldn't be fighting for a win over a second 15. In New Zealand, I don't even care what second 15. Even if they played Hamilton Boys second 15, or Sacred Heart second 15, or Hastings Boys, or Napier Boys second 15, they shouldn't be fighting for a win over a second 15. And I'm talking about Southland Boys. That's that's almost like St. Kennigan struggling to beat Auckland Grammar's second 15. That's never going to happen. Well, not right now. And Southland, who is such a traditionally strong team that always have really good players, really good talent in their area, and from around the area, let's be honest, from around the area too, a lot of boys come in from different areas and come to Southland Boys because the rugby is so good. But for them to play that game, even if it's a backup, I don't care about that. 20-17 is such a shocking score to me, and what I've seen Southland Boys be like, and don't feel like I am being hard on these boys. Because you ask any of the boys that have played first 15 rugby for Southland Boys, and you tell them, if they haven't heard, and you tell them The second 15 from Otago almost beat your first 15. They would be embarrassed. 100%. That is not something that I'm trying to get down on them boys. I'm not. Because any first 15 player that played for Southland Boys would feel the same way that I'm feeling. You didn't lose, but you almost did. You were 3 points away from losing. You were a penalty away from a draw. Even if they drew, that would be embarrassing. But if you see the team that played that played Kings High School, to that team, cut it out, bro. Any Southland Boys player would tell you that's unacceptable. Any old boy would say that's unacceptable. And they've got to fix it, and they've got to get it right. And no doubt they will. I think that they will. Because, Southland Boys, they have, they already played Otago Boys, and they drew 19 all. And if you just take that, so you saying that the difference between Otago Boys' first 15 and their second 15 is 3 points? No way. Not at all. So, I don't know. That was just so surprising to me. That your Highlanders rival for so many years, Otago Boys' first 15, you only just beat their second 15? Imagine what the trash talk would be though. Right? Imagine the trash talk. So sorry about that. Think about it, right? So Otago Boys and Southland Boys last week, they drew 19 all. If Otago Boys second 15 had beaten Southland first 15, and the first 15 from that school couldn't even beat them, the trash talk wouldn't even come from the Otago Boys first 15, because they will get trashed. They will get trash talked by the second 15 who beat a team they couldn't beat in their own school. And it would be hard for the coaches to be like, well, you guys are second 15. It's like, well, not really, because you guys couldn't beat Southland. We beat them. That would have been uncomfortable. I think if I was in the first 15 this year, if I was Otago Boys first 15, I would have been clapping if they heard this and be like, oh, shoot, lucky they didn't win. Shoot. It'll make us look real bad. If we couldn't beat Southland first 15, then our second 15 wouldn't beat them. Ugh. Imagine that dilemma in your school. Imagine that shift of power whenever it comes to trainings. Anyway, I rambled too much. Next week's games are going to be big. The rankings are going to change. I'll put them all up tonight so everyone else will be able to see all the rankings and all the new ones that come up. And the top 10 shouldn't look much different. I still haven't decided whether I should move Palmy back a spot or two, because I think 3 is a pretty comfortable position, and they played like they were a 3 to a number 1 team. But yeah, definitely there's definitely going to be some changes, of course. And so, also I've got other podcasts coming in. I've just got some people there. I'm going to be doing some other podcasts with people that are not rugby, and I just like to talk. And obviously, I've got other interests as people do. I don't just talk about sports. So I want to do some music ones, or talk to some sports people from probably other sports, and maybe some I don't know, maybe some principals. I know a few principals from New Zealand. Maybe get their perspective on schools and how things are going. I mean, because um, obviously my audience are a lot of kids, and they talk about their stuff, and so I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to talk to a principal and getting their perspective on, the relationship of principals to teachers, and relationships of between the principals and kids, and how they develop kids through their schools. I think will be pretty interesting conversations to have. Um, yeah, I just wanted to get different people. Like I like to learn from people that are in their area of expertise, kind of thing. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to try and get some guys on here. I've reached out to some of the Chiefs players to see if they can come on. I want to have a talk to some of the Magic players as well. Um, I know of a few of them. I've got a few connections to them, so I'll reach out and see if I can get some of them in here, and have a talk to them. And yeah, but that's it for today of our Monday morning meeting. Thanks for coming in, tuning in, and remember to like and subscribe and share and comment and notifications, all that other kind of stuff. I don't like doing this kind of stuff, but it's just the necessary stuff. I just like to talk about the sports. When you jump on my website, click on all the ads. Don't buy anything, just click on the ads. But yeah, thanks for joining in. Peace.